The Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC, has always been passionate about developing the agricultural sector in the region. In a Zoom meeting between the Directorate of Agriculture and MainStay Agro-Allied Services, a potential partnership was discussed on the Niger Delta Integrated Agribusiness Development Project, NIADEP. The aim is to leverage global investment opportunities and create massive investment interest within the agricultural sector in the Niger Delta region. Take a look.
We invited you because we saw the proposal you sent to us, even if you didn't have a lot attached with the brief document that you sent to us. We went through it and we felt that we needed to speak with you and look at what you have on the table, because without food we cannot exist. And if agriculture is that important, the sick will eat, the strong will eat. Only the dead don't eat. But we can't do it alone in any case. We need partners with experience, the manpower, and with the funding. Because for you to successfully carry out integrated agriculture, you need a lot of funding and you need a lot of manpower input. Except we want to continue to operate on the subsistence level where our farmers will just, till 2, 3, 10, 20 plots of land and then plant yam, cassava, and other crops and believe that they are farmers. Yes, they are, but that is not what we are looking at. The world population is increasing. So when we looked at your proposal, we said we needed to invite you. We needed to discuss with you and then ask you some vital questions. But what we need is to move beyond that level, to have an integrated agricultural revolution in Niger Delta that it will be the food basket of the region. So that when we are talking of agriculture, we are talking of the tomorrow agriculture, not the yesterday agriculture. I want us to think outside the box for everything we are doing in agriculture in Nigeria.
So basically, the essence of assembling the team is that for every other country represented here and the team represented here, they'll be taking the whole NIADEP team on a benchmarking tour to focus specifically on agribusiness potentials across the various countries they come from. So this is NIADEP. Basically, NIADEP is a product of several years of experience in, engagement in the Niger Delta, especially in the agricultural sector of the Niger Delta. One thing was evidently missing. I'll go to the slide proper that will explain what was missing, but we identified it. There was a total lack of a consistent and committed central platform that will connect private sector to the public sector, especially the NDDC, with a view to unlocking not just the agricultural sector, but the agribusiness, which is seeing agriculture as a business. The whole job and vision and mission of NIADEP as developed is to create a platform, central, global, local, to see agriculture as a business. And in this process, there are critical things that we realize that were the issues when we did our baseline survey: the knowledge gap, lack of sensitization across critical stakeholders, understanding how to harness the enormous potential of agriculture as a business, as against subsistence living and operating the farms locally without value addition and the rest. So please, the next slide. So this is a display of the NIADEP core project partners we like to see, and most of them are represented here. MainStay Agro, the lead partner; NDDC, hopefully by God's grace, are project partners too. Nigerian Farmers Network, the operational arm to mobilize young Niger Deltans under this project to be able to deliver on them. China Ventures, represented by our brother Michael Pan. Imali Wealth Group, the South African team, represented by Mfundo, that are introducing agricultural financing solutions and also introducing what he was calling the Agri-Smart technology that helps young people in the villages access funding for agriculture, identifying the agricultural potential, and then they are able to match them with relevant funding to develop and scale up the agriculture as a business. Then we have total quality management. The big boss himself, Freddie from the US, the man facilitating the US part and the Mississippi Development Commission. And then we have the Southern Nigeria Diaspora Network, the lady in the room who can't wait to attract diaspora investments into the agricultural sector. And of course, Agric, Nigerian Dutch Business Association, has already spoken so eloquently and passionately about what we can do. And the China state-owned company, which Mr. Michael is facilitating, that is also the COEC, China Organization for Economic Cooperation. Those are the partners. Please, next slide. Okay, so this is very critical, and if I have your attention, I'd like us to pay attention to this part of the slides, as I'll be very quick with it if you don't mind. Next slide. So this is a summary from OPEC of Nigeria's earnings from crude oil exports in 5 years, within 2015 to 2019. I just want us to have this image in mind while we progress. Next slide. Now, this is what is contained in a barrel of crude. The essence of this illustration is that the whole idea of NIADEP is to create a platform for the transition between the oil sector to the non-oil sector. So we must take lessons from the oil sector so that we understand the mistakes that we must avoid in the non-oil sector that is booming at the moment. So you can see the products, all the numerous products that comes from crude oil. But what we literally do is to export raw crude oil out of Nigeria and generate revenue only from few of those products, fuel, gasoline, and the rest. So this is a good way of looking at what we have lost in the Niger Delta since the inception of crude oil. So next slide. Another form of oil, but now in the non-oil sector. So this made news and headlines last week, precisely, that Nigeria imports 300 billion naira palm oil in 6 years. If nothing else speaks to the reason why we are here or what we want to do, I think this will do, even if we don't say anything again. This calls for a money move, because what this technically means is that the Niger Delta region has lost 300 billion naira in 6 years. Because statistics has it that 57% of palm oil production in Nigeria is done in the Niger Delta. As a matter of fact, no need to preach the converted, because we know how the Malaysians got their oil palm in 1950 and then took it over, and this is what we have. But next slide, let's take a look at what's going on. So the annual spend in 5 years importing oil is 60.58 billion. This is the global contribution. This green area you're seeing, the global contribution from Nigeria in the oil sector in 1950s. So Nigeria was contributing globally to the oil palm oil production of export 40%, right? 2018, this is the current global contribution. So this has to stay in mind, the reason why we're doing what we're doing. So we went from 50% in 1950s to 1.4%. Not even up to 10% of what we're doing in 1950s to global contribution. Why this breaks my heart is that this does not only speak to any part of Nigeria, apart from this region. You can see clearly a map in green. I can call the states for you, but we all know where this region is. It's a heavy moment for me, but if nothing else makes sense to you guys while we are here to introduce the NIADEP project, this should make sense to you guys. So 1.4% global contributions to 40%. Government, private sector had literally abandoned the huge opportunity in agribusiness through the oil palm to degenerate to the extent that we are now only contributing 1.4%. Little wonder why we're importing oil palm. Little wonder why we're importing oil palm that used to grow wild in every part of the Niger Delta. Please, next slide. Let's continue. According to the government of Central Bank of Nigeria, Nigeria imported 302,000 metric tons in 2017, despite placing the product in the forex exclusion list. So what this means is that the central bank, in their wisdom, to be able to support backward integration, excluded forex for oil palm plantation. But the shortfall was so strong that the marketers and the merchants had to outsource forex through the black market trade to import as much as 302,000 metric tons. Okay, This, according to experts, is due to the current production not meeting local demand, as the 1.4 metric tons averagely produced is below the 3 million consumed annually. I like to emphasize on that. Sorry, sir, I hope you guys don't mind, because after this, I'll go very far. So what experts are saying is that we're not able to produce sufficient oil palm for our own consumption, for local demand, not to talk about export. Oil palm oil. Okay, that's fine. So what they are also saying, the clear statistics is that 1.4 metric tons averagely produced annually in Nigeria does not meet up with the shortfall of 3 million tons consumed annually. So why won't merchants who see the agribusiness, talking about agribusiness, you see agriculture as a business, so they see this shortfall of over 50% in oil palm, and they go and buy forex to import it to be able to meet the local demand. The greatest loser in all of this is the Niger Delta region. And that's the essence of emphasizing on that. Today, a barrel of oil palm sells for $600. The day oil touches $150 per barrel, that's crude oil, by the way, the whole world will shout. And we know why. So in this reality, the crude oil that is our main source of revenue generation is not even up to the cost of the barrel of oil palm. I don't know if I need to emphasize this.
Please do emphasize it 100%.
What I'm saying is that currently oil palm per barrel is $600 per barrel. And up till this moment, the crude oil that is the major thing Nigeria boasts for, that has a major income revenue, foreign exchange revenue, is not up to $150 per barrel.
Not even up to 120.
Not up to 120, sir. But our oil palm that we're importing is $600 per barrel. The elemental calculation will help us all. Analysis on yearly importation disclosed that the product was imported more in 2021, as 148.2 billion naira worth of palm oil was imported. This is followed by 2022 with 70.2 billion and 2018 with 32.9 billion. Also in 2022, 22 billion of the product was imported, while in 2017, let's leave the billions. How Malaysia got the oil seed from Nigeria? So, this particular slide sometimes makes me feel a bit dizzy. It gets me dizzy. The reason why it gets me dizzy is that, if you're looking for the cause of unemployment in the Niger Delta region, you don't go too far. If you're looking at the cause of poverty and economic deprivation and challenges, this is where it is. If a region is losing this amount to a region that contributed 50%, almost 50% of global oil palm, now losing all of this amount to importation, I think we need to check ourselves. Next slide. Okay, so this is just to give you the oil palm value chain, because these are, I'm at home with experts in these things, so I don't need to explain how much comes from the oil palm, from the crude oil palm to pharmaceuticals to blah blah blah. Please give me next slide. The oleochemical industry, please just give me headache. Give me next slide, please. So the essence of this previous slide, I say give me next slide, is to tell you that what we're importing first, that we're shouting about the billions, is just oil palm as palm oil. Not oleochemicals, which is, please go back, please. Not oleochemicals, which are the critical part of, is called deodorized oil palm when it is refined. The whole of Niger Delta region does not have a standard modular refinery for oil palm that can give us deodorized oil palm. Okay, sir, sorry, sir. Sorry, I'm sure you're nodding because you understand what I'm talking about.
So you can see why in the Niger Delta and in Nigeria, we are where we are.
Yes.
The reason we are having you here, because we want to hear you out.
Yes, sir.
If I can take a loan to want to achieve that, now as a Director of Agriculture, why can't I bring to bear my passion, vision, to see that we have a new narrative? Carry on, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. At this point, I would have actually closed my presentation because the Able Director has actually justified the need for NIADEP. But, it's only God that is doing this thing, sir. May God bless you. Amen. They said in the Bible that every vision is for an appointed time. If you wait for it, even if it tarries, it will come to pass. And today I see the fulfillment of your vision come to pass and right in your hands as God will have it. So thank you for that very, very critical contribution. So I was going to analyze the other parts of it, but since you already mentioned about what you intended to do, then this next slide, let's move on. So this is the agribusiness around that. This was all we are going to do to set up the refiners and blenders. So just next slide, please. Okay, so we leave oil palm and go into coconut oil too, one of the also major areas. The reason why, is a bit, not exactly very mischievous that we're using the oil. There are too many value chains in the agricultural sector in the Niger Delta, but we're trying to juxtapose the oils versus the oils.
All the oils.
Yeah, so since they want to talk about crude oil, let's also match them with our own oil. So
Coconut now here,
their own less than $120 per barrel. Our own $600 per barrel. So who get level pass? You understand? Now we get a level. So coconut oil market is expected to reach $7.4 billion by 2027. In 2016, Nigeria produced 203,774 metric tons, and the demand for the crop has been on the increase, growing upwards to more than 500% in the last decade. I don't know so much about Niger Delta 100%, but I know that this particular crop is close to Niger Delta. Currently in Abuja, members of the Nigerian Farmers Network who are not from the Niger Delta literally locally purchase coconuts and process. I have the videos and process coconut oil locally without any special equipment, training on anything, and each of them are generally turning over $320,000 per annum from exporting their processed coconut oil. They are not Niger Deltans. All they do is just find access to coconut and buy it locally and they process and they export. So that's about coconut oil. Please, next slide. Okay, just next slide. Let's go quickly. So the game for NIADEP is backward integration, and this means sourcing of our raw materials locally as import substitute. The aim is to start to save foreign exchange reserves and revamp local production capacity in the Niger Delta, as we have seen in the previous slides. Please go ahead so that we can make quick progress. So the essence of creating a platform like NIADEP is to make sure that all those primordial sentiments, as we call, political interactions and all of that, are totally mitigated. We have seen a galaxy of partners, foreign partners from different parts of the world, making out time even with difficult time zones to be here today, to be able to say that they are ready to get involved and partner and mobilize investments and funding to have this project going on. So you can see the numerous agroecology of the Niger Delta. So what the question is, what is the market share of the Niger Delta in both local and global agribusiness? Next slide, please. This is who we are, MainStay Agro-Allied Services Limited. And we're an indigenous agribusiness development company with over 60 years cumulative experience. You can see Freddie, Michael, and the rest. We had global interactions over time. Currently consulting for the German government in developing and creating jobs for young people through the fisheries and aquaculture value chain. So next slide. What we do, of course, that's also part of the information I already shared. Go ahead, next slide, please. Let's quickly go. Background. Niger Delta is a resource-rich region distributed across 9 states. Over 65% of the population are under 25. The focus of the current NDDC board, we understand, is to reverse the poverty trap that has shackled the people through job creation and rapid economic growth in many communities. Next slide. This is just basic literature. So in line with the passion of the NDDC on job creation and economic development, MainStay Agro-Allied Services and partners have developed NIADEP, Niger Delta Integrated Agribusiness Project, in collaboration with our foreign technical partners to leapfrog the agribusiness sector through public-private partnership. Next slide, please. Yeah, so our vision is to position the Niger Delta as a global powerhouse in agribusiness. You already mentioned that in your initial presentation. Our mission is to build a world-class, credible agribusiness value chain development and coordination platform. Very critical choice of words. Agribusiness value chain, 1, development, 2, coordination platform, which leverages on technology to advocate and enhance sustainable development in the Niger Delta region. Our objectives are simple: identify areas of comparative advantage and gaps through agribusiness value chain mapping. So the first preliminary thing that we'll be doing differently is the database. Without data, you can't develop. And this is not just data for agriculture. We know we have people not to have this. No. Agribusiness value chain data mapping is a different type of data mapping that has never been done here for critical investment linkages. Introduce strategies to maximize and optimal utilization of our potential and resources. Emphasize and concentrate efforts and energies in on the 5 areas. Engage relevant local and global stakeholders like we have already remotely to unlock the agribusiness potential. Facilitate enabling environment and incentives through a secure central platform for trade and investment, attract local and global investment and investors, increase economic growth through backward integration. Next slide, please. Project distribution. It's just basically going to be a legacy economic engineering framework, not a consultancy, not a contract, a deliberate contribution of the private sector to engage with Niger Delta Development Commission to allow for the numerous people who have potential to bring into this sector. And we coordinate it together. So this will be improving the non-oil agribusiness sector through multi-stakeholder engagement and coordination. This unique project incorporates private-public partnership to align the agribusiness potential of the Niger Delta region for sustainable wealth creation. Of course, I already mentioned our first stage, apart from the benchmarking global tour will be going on with the team after being launched, is to commence precision agribusiness mapping around the value chain. Data mapping, very critical. Then value chain orientation campaigns, entrepreneurship education, and grassroots alignment with media. Very important. Sensitization on the new move of NIADEP around the potential of agribusiness. We had a joke when we're coming today. I said, by the time, or even in the office, by the time young people in the rural areas and even in the urban areas realize that those commodities and opportunities in their countries, for example, snail. Niger Delta is home to the giant African snail that is the best all over the world. A component of that snail that we wash up diligently to serve the snail as meat, which is now luxury for us in Abuja, we can't even afford it, is called slime. Slime is a huge foreign exchange earner. That thing washed off with what we call alum. Contains huge solutions for pharmaceutical, cosmetics. And that is what people extract from snails that are not even worth our own and sell and make huge money. So the moment, by buying go to the shelves and the next of it, the value chain is a crazy experience. So once everybody knows that the person selling snail knows that that slime that the money washes with alum is valuable, then we'll start having a snail insecurity. So that's by the way. Next slide, please. Next slide. Let's play one of these. So our focus is agribusiness, data analytics, and agribusiness intelligence. So with this first layer of data analytics and agribusiness intelligence, the NIADEP program in partnership with Niger Delta Development Commission will be making millions of dollars first of all, because investors want access to data. Data is the new crude, absolutely. So this is what we're going to be doing, and data we're going to be developing in collaboration with the critical stakeholders. So strategic alliance and partnership like what we're already doing with the guys from China and the rest. Agricultural commodities trading and global sourcing, market access. So let me just quickly mention this now. But drilling down to the money part, we'll see where we're getting our monies from. The reason why we're not asking Niger Delta to give us a dime. So we're here at no public recourse. This is a totally non-financial program, collaboration and partnership with Niger Delta. So let me make it very clear.
That's music to me.
No, that is So I know that's really good music. I know that's really music. But you'll see, I hope that with this music to the ears, when you start hearing our own sound of our own music, you don't start saying, you know what, you should be bringing small returns on this non-financial part. I know. So I'm for months I've been battling to meet up with a specific order, because part of what we do is also commodity outsourcing of a product called palm oil stearin. Is the white part that comes from the processing of oil palm stearin. I have an order. I have a local director. We're together. The time has come. The time of election has come. We have a local order for this product, 350 metric tons monthly. Local order, and we searched everywhere to get where we can get consistent supply chain of palm oil stearin. Couldn't find. The absence of why it is important to create this agricultural commodities trading, global sourcing and market access platform. What that means is that when there's a demand, there's a central point where everybody in the Niger Delta, both locally and globally, can know that there's a demand for a particular product and look at the going price and look at the demand, and you provide the linkage between the demand to the supply and ensure that you strengthen the supply side with relevant technology and equipment to be able to enhance what we call the VVF, the value and the volume and the frequency. The game in commodity trading, only one word, even in the stock market, is VVF, value, volume, and frequency. And we can achieve that through the NIADEP platform, because what you do is just go to the NIADEP platform and see what the current demand is, what people are looking for, and you connect to it through our e-commerce platform. So agricultural project finance, of course, you had Michael, you had the rest here talk about how much money diaspora investments in agriculture has ever happened. So Nigeria's diaspora, the southern part of Nigerians account for about 50% of Nigerians living in diaspora. Huge. But this demography have not been able to find a way, apart from cash remittances to the CBN, to invest in the Niger Delta and also make more money from it. The time has come, and NIADEP is the platform where they can see the opportunities and bring in their funding to invest and also attract other technology that's required. Skills and additional training, very key. Trade promotions, investment facilitations, technology transfer and mechanization, agribusiness startup development setup. So with NIADEP now, our young people are able to see startups. They see slime production as startup. They see coconut oil as startup. They see steering oil as startup. They see various opportunities that they can do as startup, and we match them with relevant investment for their startups and scale. The beauty about this startup is that we are also coordinating the offtake market for this startup. So they are strengthened and help them grow at scale really fast. Please, next slide. NIADEP New Frontiers. So in all of what we've been talking about, we've not talked about the agritourism potential of the Niger Delta. We've not talked about agroforestry, we've not talked about agroecology, climate smart agriculture, very, very key. So when it comes to land size, Niger Delta does not have a competitive edge compared to the north. But the interesting thing is that what we need to study is how come Netherlands, that is not a country that's not as big as Niger State. One state in Nigeria is bigger than Netherlands, happens to be the next exporter of agricultural products. How come? What is the secret? What's the rocket science that will counter that? It's also important to also ask ourselves a very critical question. How come Israel, being a very small country, you can't find any technology, any solution in agribusiness anywhere in the world that there's no Israeli behind it? Proprietary technology, patented as much. Those are things we'll be looking at also. But let's go close to Africa. In September 2022, Kenya exported cut flowers worth roughly 3.3 billion Kenyan shillings, about $26 million. In 1 month, Kenya through I have a witness. I have a witness. Please, let's run fast to avoid the delay. But I'm glad that I have too many witnesses here. So, what is the reason for unemployment in Niger Delta when every young Niger Delta can plant flowers and have an off-peak market for it? That Kenya, only through horticultural farming, generates $26 million only in the month of September. So what NIADEP also does differently is to connect young people to the opportunities in the agribusiness value chain, such as this. Because Kenyans are not smarter than Nigerians. All you need to do is to show Nigerians, a young Nigerian an idea and leave him to what to do with him and provide the support. And that's the essence.
Even go to GSM village. Bring Geody, bring Samsung, bring different.
The Chinese are surprised. The Chinese are surprised. So we have that God-given initiative. All we need to do is to connect them to the opportunities. I want to use that opportunity to make a case for the constituency I represent and also the Nigerian farmers in the We intend to have them as a major operational arm of the NIADEP program. And these are young people who are in the network, who are Niger Deltans and domiciled in the Niger Delta. And that will help them see the opportunities and also help us get funding to scale their startups up. So just so important. And also to build their digital skills. Value additional processing, we mentioned that, no brainer. Research and innovation, Israel and Dutch experience, engaging the relevant stakeholders like the academia. We've spoken about so much about the raw value chain of agribusiness, the raw commodities and everything. Research and innovation is a component of the value chain of agribusiness and worth millions of dollars. Schools have no reason going on strike if universities can generate revenue globally from research and innovation. NIADEP will provide the linkage between exchange programs from international investment organizations to our universities to show up and provide infrastructure for research and development in this program to be able to enable us start earning money from research and innovation. Okay, so next slide, yeah. Okay, so this summarizes the core activities of NIADEP: commodity trading, global sourcing, supply chain management, project development and financing, investment promotion and facilitation, strategic alliance. Of course, the supply chain, demand management, supply management, material management. So that's where our money is at. I'm sure the copy of the slide we made available after now for further study. Next slide, please. This is our proposal. Finally, we are here. MainStay Agro-Allied Services Limited and partners. And when I say partners, I now see that we have conscripted the Director of Agriculture and Fisheries of Niger Delta Development Commission, because he had been a partner even before we met. So he is already part of our partners. And we say, we humbly request for the endorsement and the partnership of the Niger Delta Development Commission to launch and operate the Niger Delta Integrated Agribusiness Development Project as a catalyst for sustainable wealth creation in the Niger Delta. Globally, agribusiness is a going concern, and it is critical that the Niger Delta keys in freely now, yesterday, like Eric said, to unlock the non-oil economy. A very simple proposal. This is what we're asking for. The several layers of the work plan, the timeline and action plans will come after we entered into a non-disclosure agreement to be able to protect everybody. So next slide, please. At the breakdown of NIADEP, remember, it's a self-funding agribusiness project, so it's very, very clear. Next slide, please. So understanding the steps is simple. NIADEP, awareness and publicity stage, where we start to have the first Niger Delta agribusiness dialogue, bringing all the stakeholders, state governments, and everybody to the table to say, this is the new move, this is what we want to achieve, this is how you benefit. Because the primary beneficiaries are even state governments. Niger Delta is busy coordinating opportunities for the state to benefit. So they have to also provide counterpart support to be able to, but first of all, the first stage is awareness and publicity, which is a low. Part of this is our international tour. Benchmarking tour, Mississippi Development Commission in the US, the Agri-Smart team in South Africa, the Chinese government through Michael Pan has mentioned, we are now invited, NIADEP is invited to participate in the Chinese China-Africa Investment Summit taking place in June this month. So we need to go fast, we can all make it there. That gives us more opportunities for benchmarking tours going forward. The next step is program/project development stage and then rollout stage. So these three short stages explains what we're going to see next. Next slide, please. I'll go closer because I am getting a bit younger and I can't see. So the next steps, and we hopefully set a target that by God's grace we'll be able to meet, is to quickly execute a non-circumvention non-disclosure agreement to enable us to proceed further, agree on the project framework which we'll be able to provide, and that's the essence of the only introductory letter we sent to make this presentation. Secure approval for endorsement and partnership from NDDC, which will require us making this presentation to a large board of the commission, as the case may be. And then pre-NIADEP rollout activities, stakeholders engagement will follow shortly. Then deliverables here on phase 2 is develop roadmap, deliverables, targets and timelines, financial instruments for the program. Engage stakeholders, meet traditional authorities and government stakeholders, organize and execute international press conference, unveil roadmap, master plan, and rollout plan. Then the main targets, rollouts. What we're waiting for, we commence rollout plan, which is the sensitization, mobilization programs, and project execution. Then we have the phase that is very important, quarterly monitoring and reporting of the progress made so far. So within the next 12 months, which seems to be very ambitious, what we want to do first of all is to focus on the data, agribusiness value chain data mapping, sensitization of critical stakeholders, global international tour for benchmarking on this program with the team. Also in the process, also organize the Niger Delta agribusiness value chain dialogue, and then importantly also run the first ever Niger Delta agribusiness value chain international roadshow. The essence of this roadshow is for the first time the Niger Delta will be going to showcase their portfolio across states as regards agribusiness value chain to an international audience who will now indicate interest and close this as case may be and find opportunities. So that's also just trying to furthermore illustrate the last stage before the quarterly monitoring. And please, next slide, please. So we look at our roles quickly. So our roles, like we already started, our part is project design, planning, implementation, and management. Mobilize investors and partners. We've already started. Project management, monitoring, evaluation, technical support, project implementation, other mutually agreed roles as may arise in the course of the project. Next slide. Our big brother and parent, Niger Delta Development Commission, the roles we propose is for you to provide a platform and facilitate the project takeoff through institutional support and enabling environment, promote and network projects, that's mobilizing relevant critical stakeholders for the project, promote project across the Niger Delta and beyond, project management in collaboration with us, also the monitoring and evaluation of these projects, Other mutually agreed rules has to be agreed upon in the course of the program. Next, benefits. No doubt, agricultural productive enhancements, a different Niger Delta will born at this case. Agribusiness growth and quantum leapfrogging, job creation, enhanced revenue generation, foreign direct investment, improved service delivery, community development, capacity development, youth mentorship, and also publicity. Next slide, please. Socioeconomic impacts and the SDGs. SDGs is very critical that we align this objective with the international best practices. So the socioeconomic impact will take many forms. The impact will include, but not limited to, job creation. Reliable figures on employment levels are difficult to obtain, but obviously higher levels of engagement of NIADEP will create more jobs. Education and skills development, very key. Total quality management will be handling a lot of skills development for young people. Exchange programs. So there are interns all over the world who are young people. Young Niger Delta students, young farmers network will be able to connect with their contemporaries, travel and go and meet them for an exchange, what we call the Global Internship Exchange, coordinated by Total Quality Management. Hunger and poverty reduction. That's goal 1 and goal 2 of the Sustainable Development Goals. So we can look to unlock the development financing for this program too. Market risks reduction, financial inclusion. Next slide, please. Next step. It will be important to sign all relevant initial agreements. After now, the NDA, first of all, that will allow us now to provide the next layout. We will now provide the action plan with the timelines, set up a joint project management team. What this means is that between us, the private sector promoters and the NDDC, a joint project management team will be set up that will be able to drill down on this program. Project benchmarking international talks, I already mentioned that immediately after we set up that project management team will go on a global project benchmarking tour across the world. Project launch on offline platforms, stakeholders dialogue mentioned already, rural grassroots publicity, full NIADEP rollout. Please, next slide. Summary: the unemployment situation, poverty, and feeling of helplessness in the communities can be solved through NIADEP, and it's clear to us from the beginning of this conversation. NIADEP is an urgent step necessary to make Niger Delta the investors' heaven, generate wealth for our people, and stem the rising tide of anarchy and crime among thousands of unengaged youth. The suggested next step will now be an executive presentation to the NDDC board after executing our non-disclosure agreement and also presenting our action plan. Next slide. Yeah, so this just shows you a very long array of value chain. People going down already. These ones are not exactly relevant. Next slide. Next slide. Value chains. Next slide. Value chains. Value chains. Next slide, please. Value chains. Next slide. Next slide. Good. Activities within the actual value chain has great potential to achieve this within the NIADEP. Reduction of hunger, job creation, wealth creation, food security, and economic development. Next slide. Now, agribusiness will empower our youth, no doubt. We already discussed that. Next slide, please. Trigger massive youth involvement in agribusiness. It shows young people where the money is, and never mind, they will never look at agriculture as the same again. They'll all come true. Next slide. Provide incentives that will support value-added agriculture. About time we start making sure that we have a successful chocolate producing facility in the Niger Delta instead of exporting our cocoa. Next slide. The success of our agriculture depends on how much incentive we are willing to give to our agribusinesses and our people. And that's the NIADEP narrative. Our core values is to ensure that we provide this incentive through this collaboration to agribusiness and our people. Next slide, please. Invest in technology, very important. That's why we're going to China in June to be able to achieve that too. Go ahead, next slide, please. Drive import substitution by accelerating local production. Backward integration is this. Next slide, please. Attract global investments in agriculture. Support more Niger Deltans to be leading players and drivers of the agricultural sector. Next slide. Take advantage of our comparative edge and build robust internal and external markets for what we grow. Next slide. The NIADEP effect, youth development and job creation, enhance value chain through research and innovation, provide what? Perspective, renewable energy, which is important to the growth of agribusiness, efficient use of technology, smart farming, AgriSmart is going to be handling that part, security and less poverty. Next step. These are the deliverables. Next slide, please. Continue, please. Thank you very much for listening, sir, and may God bless the Niger Delta region of Nigeria. Thank you, sir.